their driving force was not to plan as many trips as possible, even though that is one of our goals. It was also they wanted to go. And if you wouldn't mind moving more of that, so what do I mean by that? They basically identified some values that they wanted to live by and practice in the community. Having thoughts towards somebody. So this is what we are working towards here. Of course, this is a very hard goal to achieve because being a raw people. But the idea is that we are working towards this goal. So we have a support community of people that are trying to work towards this goal all together, all supporting one another, having been through many different backgrounds and experiences ourselves. Then we have a value that we call unschooling or natural learning. This means that we believe in letting children make their own decisions about what they think is best for them instead of imposing our views of what is best for them in the world. So this is a value that's actually very, I mean, they're all very important to me, but this is one that has influenced our decision greatly to stay here longer. Because this is exactly the kind of environment that we want to raise our child in, where we don't think that we as adults know more about what a child needs. Children are just small human beings. They should be respected in their autonomy as far as they can be. And instead of being prescriptive with them about what they should do, what they should eat, how they should behave, what level of volume they can speak at, where they should go, what they should climb, and all these things. Instead of restricting all these things, we let them learn from their own mistakes. And of course, we are there to support them and guide them throughout their journey of growth. And this extends, of course, a lot more than these things. Things like, of course, the biggest one that's most common is forcing children to go to school and learn things that they don't have no interest in learning. And we all know what happens with that. When we are forced to do things that we don't want to do, we do the minimum possible amount of work to get out of it, and then forget it as soon as we don't have to do it anymore. And I'm sure all of you have experiences about that relate to this in some sort of educational institution that you've been to, if you've been to one, which is, I'm betting, almost all of you. Then also, instead of this, we want to rely on a child's internal motivation, their intrinsic motivation, which is a lot more powerful than external motivation of reward or punishment. So we want to rely on children deciding, that they are interested in how buildings are constructed, or how food is cooked, or how people are able to do handstands or dance, or all these things, and let these curiosities guide them towards whatever they want to do, instead of boxing themselves into particular career paths or ideas or definitions of success. It also is very beneficial towards other things like not getting your sense of validation from others, and learning to rely on your own sense of self-validation instead of seeking the approval of your parents and your teachers. Then very much related to this idea of natural learning is something that we call a non-competition. So as a community, we are not a competitive community, which means that we don't have any competitive activities in this space. It can be competitive sports, it can be competitive games like chess, but when I say competitive sports, it's most of the sports that people are used to. But there are many other games and sports that people can play that are not competitive by nature. There are alterations that you can make to existing games to make them not competitive, but we prefer to come up with new ideas so that also people can engage with a different side of their brain, where they're not just thinking about how to beat somebody, but instead thinking about how they can collaborate with somebody to create something better. So a very typical example of a collaborative activity is drawing or playing music, where if you are playing music and somebody joins you, you're not competing to see who can play music better. You are generally going to collaborate to create a piece of music that neither of you could create together, create by yourselves. The reason non-competition is such a strong value, especially for kids, is because we are surrounded with so much competition in our lives day to day. Everywhere you go, from fighting for a pay raise at your job, fighting for one of many candidates for a job position, fighting for a better house, a bigger car, maybe a partner. All these things, we have all these kind of resources that we are led to believe are scarce in our life. That we think that there are very few resources and we have to be the ones to get these resources. What this does is it creates a sense of anxiety and scarcity in your life, where you think that you don't know what is scarce, but you have to be the one to look out for yourself because nobody else is going to do it for you. Instead, we say, why not share what we have with other people? And again, very much linked to this idea of non-competition and scarcity is a value that we call gift economy. Gift economy is the idea that we want to give to people without expecting anything in return. So we're all familiar with the kind of capitalist models that we live in today, which is where if you want to buy something from somebody, what you do is you give them some money in return. So let's say I want to get a loaf of bread from you. You will expect that I will pay you 40 rupees in return for this loaf of bread. This is very common. And people think, let's move beyond money. Let's move to an exchange system or a barter system, right? So, okay, I'll give you this loaf of bread, and you can give me a loaf back in a few days, or you can maybe clean my house for some time. Some of these things, some sort of an exchange. But the idea of a gift is that it's not a transaction. It's not a two-way transaction, at least. It's just that I give you what I can because I want to, or because I see that you need it, or just because I feel like sharing what I have. And that's it. That's the end of the transaction. There's no expectation that you will give me anything in return. So an example of this is just this evening here today. We've organized a bus to bring people from Oroville. We're giving you this tour, sharing our knowledge, sharing everything that we have learned in the last almost 2 decades. We are going to see a film. We're going to have a nice vegan meal cooked by our chefs in our community, and we're going to send people back. And all this is free of charge. There's no expectation that any one of you will do anything in return as a compensation for this. And we are perfectly happy to do this as an expression of our gift economy. And if you look at where this idea of gift economy comes from, it comes from the same mindset of abundance and scarcity, where we live in a world where so much of what we have we feel is scarce. That if we give to somebody else, we will have less in return. Um, but have you ever stopped to think about what happens when there are two people in the same room who make very different amounts of money, and they can feel the same sense of scarcity or abundance by a certain percentage amount? So somebody can make, 10,000 rupees a month, and feel like they have enough to go by. They have enough to feed their family. They have enough to share with their friends and their neighbors. Maybe they don't have enough to save a lot, but they feel contented, and they feel like they have a sense of abundance. And somebody who's making, I don't know, 10 lakh rupees a month, the richest people in the world, the 0.01% of the world, they're not going to stop making money just because they have enough. There's never this sense that you can have enough. So this idea of abundance is purely a mental idea, where you will never have enough as long as you're in this mindset of scarcity. Whatever you have, you will always want a little bit more and a little bit more. So this is what we are trying to break out of a little bit over here by saying, sure, there are some things that cost us money. Like if you wanted to make food and share it with 100 people every day, yes, your bank balance would certainly take a hit. But for many of the things that you have learned in your life, how much does it cost to share these things? If somebody here is, or here, or somebody anywhere, has made a course for somebody online, the thing that I'm offering has a lot of benefit for people. Then we have a few more. I mentioned that the meal today that we're going to be having today is a vegan meal. So that is another one of our core values. We are a vegan community, which means growth is very hard to achieve when you are in a different state of mind. If you're used to work your personal growth, selfless service, like at your own expense, it means kind of transcending your own dislikes for what needs to be done. So we are a community of people working together. There are many dislikes for what needs to be done. So we are a community of people working together. There are many activities that need to be not every day as our first choice. But receive gifts. That's why we like to give them. That's why we like to give them to those around us. We are being compassionate towards children by we are being compassionate towards nature by we are being compassionate towards ourselves by not putting intoxicating substances into our minds and our bodies that are going to damage us for the future. So this is actually the core idea of Sadhana Forest. Sadhana Forest is not just a reforestation project where we're doing water conservation work and we're doing low impact living. It's not just these technical aspects, but it's more subtle than that. It's all about the values that we live here by, and it's actually these values that have allowed us to grow over the years to many different countries and different projects. So we actually now have one, two, three, almost four different Sadhana forests apart from this main location. So in 2010, we started our project in Haiti, where what we did was we went to a part that was actually very badly affected by the